It's Music Monday, and I got a suggestion from Edwin that we're going to take. But first, I got another suggestion from Shauna that I got to give a shout out to. Shauna turned me on to this group. Shauna, I'm not sure if you're in the chat, but if you are, thank you. Cop Shoot Cop. Here they are, Cop Shoot Cop. They're a band out of New York City, started in 1987. They're described as industrial rock. Now, I kind of got this vibe. They were kind of like a bit of an acid rock type thing, and they reminded me of Morphine a little bit, which I wasn't sure why. I'm like, why do they remind me of Morphine some? Like, there's something about their sound. I found out, looking at their Wikipedia, they don't actually use a guitar, kind of like Morphine. It's two bassists and a drummer, and then sometimes the other guy uses keyboards as well. I never heard of these guys. I totally missed them. Shauna recommended them to me, and I've been listening to them all morning. It's really cool post-punk, acid-esque rock. It's just good stuff. You know, I don't like describing music that much anymore because I feel like there's good stuff and bad stuff, you know? What's up? Hey, look who's really excited about her comic. Somebody is so stoked about her comic, she wants to hang. Good morning, Lucy. How are you? I hope everything is well. Hope you had a great night and a great nap. She was up early this morning because I was up early this morning. So she got all excited. She was like, "Is it time to get up?" And I was like, "No, it's not. I just have to use the restroom." She was like, "Well, I don't. You're awake though. You never do that." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And that's that. That was it. So she's been up. And she, too, has been enjoying the smooth sounds of Cop Shoot Cop. I got the name wrong. But yeah, I totally missed the boat on these guys. I never knew about them. Never heard of them. Shauna turned me on to them. Thank you for doing that, Shauna, because I've been listening to them all morning, and they've got a new fan in me. They're not around anymore, I don't think, but I recommend them. Check them out. So here's the other recommendation for today's Music Monday that we're going to take. Edwin suggests this. This is from Edwin. Here's what he said to me on Twitter. Last Friday marked Kurt Cobain's death 25 years ago. I'd like to dedicate today's Music Monday to him in remembrance. You don't need to convince me much. So, I was thinking about it, and I would say that if I had to give, like, one gold star or one just sort of, this is the person who creatively inspired me more than anyone else, inspired me to become a creative person or whatever, I would have to give that number one spot to Kurt Cobain. Even more so than any comedian, more so than a George Carlin, more so than Bill Hicks even, more so than anyone in the literary world. I would have to give it to Kurt Cobain, and it's because, and I've mentioned this on the show before, Nirvana for me was a big launching pad into discovering a lot of different music. I discovered Nirvana when I was 10 years old, and I just missed it because Kurt Cobain had just died. And I got Unplugged in New York on cassette, and I never heard rock music done that way before. I was just into classic rock at that point, and I was cognizant of the stuff on the radio, and I heard Nirvana Unplugged, and it just blew my mind. So I got Nevermind on cassette, and I listened to the Nevermind cassette so much. Some of you might be having to Google what cassette tapes are, but I listened to my Nevermind cassette tape so much that I broke it twice. I had to rebuy that cassette twice. And what I would do is I would sit on a swing set in my parents' yard, and I would swing back and forth, and I had a Walkman. That was what they were called. They were a Walkman. It was a portable cassette player. You pop the cassette in, you would hit play, and I would just swing back and forth and listen to that album. And it was such an incredible album. And I dreamed of one day having my own little garage band and playing that kind of music. And you would always know when the batteries were wearing out because the music would start to warp because it was a cassette tape, you know, so it went around. So the music would start to sound warped, like it would start to sound like that slow motion. And that's how you knew that the batteries were dying and you needed new batteries for your Walkman. And I would go through batteries a lot. And yeah, I literally wore out the cassette. It wouldn't play anymore. I straight up broke it from playing it so much. And that happened twice. And then a little while later, I got Nevermind on CD. Because I still bought cassettes for a while because even after CDs were out, they didn't have portable CD players for a little bit. It took a little bit for them to get portable CD players. And when they first got them, I don't know if any of you guys remember this, when they first got portable CD players, they sucked. Portable CD players were bullshit. They just skipped every second. They were not good. It took like a little bit of time for them to perfect portable CD players. Or maybe perfect's a bit strong, but you know, make them better. The first round of them, at least the ones that I was introduced to, were very poor. I remember the first CD player I got, it sucked. It just skipped all the time. I ended up returning it and just being like, I'm going to stick with cassettes. Whatever. So cassettes were still selling for that reason. People would like them as Walkmans and stuff like that. And then cassettes actually still sell because some people collect them. But I digress. So what Nirvana used to do, and there's a segment going on where one of Nirvana's former managers just released a book about Nirvana and has been doing a lot of appearances. And he talked about how they would always wear different band t-shirts. And when I was 10 years old, I would look at all these photos of Nirvana. I would look at the t-shirt that Kurt or someone else in the band was wearing. I would find that band at the record store. So I would look at it, I'd be like, who's Flipper? Who's Black Flag? Who's Dinosaur Jr.? Who's, all these bands? Who's Fugazi? I would just look, and that was how I discovered punk rock, essentially, because I got really into Discord Records, which, by the way, look, one of the first Discord bands is on my shirt right now, State of Alert. So I would do that. I would go, and that was how I discovered a lot of music. So Kurt Cobain was really instrumental as an artist in catapulting me into what would inform my musical palette. And politically, he was a huge lefty. He was, very progressive. He identified as a socialist. He was way ahead of his time in so many ways. He was very outspoken about bigotry. He was very outspoken against homophobia. And he was just very much a brilliant guy. And, of course, had a lot of issues, obviously. But when I think about just culturally and the type of values I hold dear, if I had to say, well, who's one creator just across the gamut that probably meant more to you than anybody else, it would have to be Kurt Cobain. And it still blows my mind that he was only 27 years old when he died. I mean, it's just, he had so much more to give. And I know that's a common story because there's the 27 curse. But when you think about some of the brilliant minds that we lost and the fact that they were only 27, and I guess now that I'm older than 27, it really sinks into me a lot. But Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Hendrix. It's pretty crazy to think about, and it's really crazy to think about. Well, what would Kurt Cobain think if he was around today? And I try not to spend too much time dwelling on that sort of thing because we have no idea. Who knows? But yeah, I think that Nirvana. I don't know how my life would have turned out had I not discovered Nirvana. Because when I think about, whenever I try to, even just this t-shirt that I happen to put on my body today, this is State of Alert. This is Henry Rollins' first punk band. They were on Discord Records. How did I first find out about Discord Records? Nirvana. Because I said, who's Black Flag? And I looked into Black Flag. And then I said, who's Henry Rollins? Who's Fugazi? And I discovered the rest of this stuff. So really, Nirvana was the catapult for that. I mean, I can go through so many T-shirts in my closet and be like, oh yeah, basically Nirvana got me started on this. And there's a good chance I would have discovered things by another means. You know, I also was exposed to different types of music via Matt Pinfield's first show, 120 Minutes. So I discovered Green Day, and there's a good chance that maybe Green Day would have gotten me into punk rock, but it was Nirvana. That was my, that was kind of my catalyst. And I like Nirvana better than Green Day, so I kind of held them, they were on more of a pedestal for me when I was, still are, actually, to this day. Even more so as the years go by. But, and those records, I mean, I still... a buddy of mine, my buddy Jesse Case, a very funny comic, by the way, you should follow him on Twitter. He tweeted recently, he said something, every now and again I revisit Nevermind, and it still is just such a masterpiece. And I do feel that way, and I feel that way about In Utero as well. And last week when they were talking about the 25th anniversary, I did pick up my guitar, and I strummed out a few Nirvana tunes, just the first ones that came to my mind. I think I strummed out Penny Royalty, did a little bit of About a Girl, and then I did some of the cover songs that they would do. Like I did Molly's Lips, which that's a really easy one to do because it is literally only 2 chords. And then I did Son of a Gun. Those were 2 Vaseline's covers, I believe, that Nirvana was famous for covering, and they did a phenomenal job with those covers. But I ran through a couple Nirvana songs, and if Kurt Cobain could hear that, he would have been like, wow, all right, buddy, stick to comedy. You didn't see me try to do jokes up there, dude. You didn't see... I would let Bobcat Goldthwait do his thing, and then we would come out and do ours. Which, by the way, Bobcat Goldthwait opened for Nirvana on a couple tours, because that's another fun little connection there. Kurt Cobain was a big comedy fan, and I lived in Seattle for a couple years. There were a lot of stories that he used to go to the local comedy club until he could no longer go out in public, because everybody would recognize him. But up until that point, he would go to the comedy club a lot to check out just open mic nights or whatever else and hang out. And in the new Comedy Underground location, unless something's changed since the last time I've been there, which has been a few years at this point, there was a mural, and there was a painting of Kurt Cobain. Like there was kind of like a mural of people in the audience, and they were famous Seattleites. Jimi Hendrix was there as well. But there was a painting of Kurt Cobain, and he was sitting and he was laughing. And as somebody who started comedy in Seattle, and as somebody who is a diehard Nirvana fan, that was always a really cool thing for me to, be at my local comedy club that was my home club for a couple years and see a picture of Kurt Cobain there. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. And it's one of those things where you kind of have to take a step back and realize just how influential this person's body of work was to you. And it was not a huge thing. I mean, they were only around for so long. I mean, Nirvana started technically in 1987. Kurt Cobain was dead by 1994. And in that 7-year span, there were struggles with addiction. There were struggles with illness. There were struggles with the lineups. Tours were canceled. Kurt got married, had a kid. Chris, I think, was married the whole time, but Chris was married at some point, the bass player. And so all that happened in this span, too. So it's kind of crazy to think about how short that time actually was, and all of the things that happened in that short period of time. They were virtually unknown until 1991. And, Incesticide was mainly just a collection of B-sides. So really, they only had... I mean, it still counts as an album, of course, but as far as just like, these are the songs we're writing at this time period, they really only had, Bleach, Nevermind, In Utero. Because Unplugged in New York was also more of a collection. It was their Unplugged album that MTV used to do. So it's a really humbling thing to wrap one's head around. Let me see what you guys are saying before we move on from this topic. And Edwin, thank you very much for suggesting this for Music Monday. It was a fantastic suggestion. I'm glad we did it. And Shauna, thanks for turning me on to Cop Shoot Cop. Let me see what you guys are saying before we move on. .org. Right? Huh? All right. Chris is still pretty awesome, says Shannon. Yeah, he's in that band. Oh, what are they called? Like Giants in the Trees or something like that. He's in a band up in Washington State, and they're actually really good. Yeah, they're a great band. Garden Gnome, I never got into Foo Fighters or Gruel's other projects. I like Foo Fighters some, that's about it. And I'm not a huge Foo Fighters fan. I do appreciate them. They're fantastic live, and I'm a big Pat Smear fan. So I do like the Foo Fighters for that, and I did see the Foo Fighters once, and it was mainly to see Pat Smear live. But that was really cool. Favorite Nirvana song, says Edwin. That is tough. Wow. Favorite Nirvana song. Oh, and one of you guys, before I try to answer that, because I don't have an answer, I'm going to try to think. Statutory points out that Love Buzz was the first Nirvana song that they played. Another thing, how Nirvana was really famous for covers. Love Buzz was a cover song. That was Nirvana's first single that Sub Pop put out, and it was a cover song. Nirvana did not write Love Buzz. Tim gives a shout out for All Apologies Unplugged. Absolutely. Both All Apologies, but yeah, wow. Indeed. My favorite Nirvana song, I'm going to have to go with On a Plane. That is just such, when I hear that song, that is just such a perfect pop song. And it's often a song that goes overlooked. I mean, even when they would play some of the Nevermind selections that weren't the hit songs, they would play Drain You, which is also one of my favorites. But some of the tracks on Nevermind that never quite got, Territorial Pissings got a lot of accolades, I think, because they played that on Saturday Night Live. But Lounge Act, Stay Away, those are all great songs, and they often go under the radar because they were just on such a powerhouse, heavy-hitting album. But I'm going to have to go with On a Plane. I just think On a Plane is just a perfect pop song. And that is sort of what Kurt Cobain was all about. The guy just knew how to write a perfect pop song. About a Girl is just a perfect pop song. And even their heavier stuff, it has that sort of pop element, and it's very beautiful. Floyd the Barber, Negative Creep. Sell the Kids for Food. That's In Bloom, which is also a fantastic song. Celeste is saying that's Celeste's favorite song. And Shannon points out, On a Plane's a great one. They all are. I agree. They just had so many great songs. So many great songs. Nirvana was great, but there were a lot of other bands on the scene with similar sounds. Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, Beavis Frond, and Mudhoney. I liked all those bands, too. Beavis Frond I'm not familiar with, but Sonic Youth, I like Sonic Youth. I got to see them a while ago. Same with Dinosaur Jr. Mudhoney I've never seen, but I was at a party they threw once, which was kind of cool. Sliver gets a shout-out. Very Ape gets a shout-out. Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. That might be my favorite album on Incesticide, I think. That's a really, really cool track. And then Penny Royalty. Love Penny Royalty. All right. So Kurt Cobain, rest in power. Thank you guys for your thoughts. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your